Hope everyone's had a good week. Now, last night, I had a great dream. I actually had a dream about bacon. Well, it was about 6 degrees, yeah. And this morning at the Residence Inn, I go in for breakfast, and what is there? There's bacon for the first time this week. So, the moral of the story is sometimes your dreams actually do come true, and hopefully that's the same for all of you for today. So, that's just my morning thought of the day. So today we have 3 talks, and then we've got a wrap-up panel discussion session. So I'd like to encourage everyone to hopefully we intend to have the panel discussion very interactive with lots of, we'll have some ideas that we wish to discuss, but obviously it's going to be a lot more meaningful for everyone if there's a lot of participation. So I encourage all of you to kind of think about what we've seen for the first few days and what we'll see today, and be prepared to have some good discussions to kind of wrap things up. Before we get started with the first talk today by Mariella Perignon, a couple of announcements. As you know, or as you may not know, this triennial workshop happens every 3 years, hence the name triennial, and it's organized by members of the Users Committee. And I'll just have a show of hands for everyone who is on current members of the Unidata Users Committee. And how about past members? So, how about future members, you may be asking? Well, there is currently a call for nominees, and if we just go to the community page from the Unidata webpage, turns out that there are 2 governing boards. There's the Users Committee, and there is the Strategic Advisory Committee. And at this point, there are nominations open for both of the committees. And I believe the only qualification is that you need to be a member of an EDU institution to serve on the committees. You can self-nominate, that is welcome, but you're also encouraged to nominate someone else who you think might be a worthy candidate. We have several people, including myself, who are going to be rotating off the Users Committee. The terms are for 3 years. The same goes for the Strategic Advisory Committee. If you want to get a bit more, if you found yourself hopefully excited by some of the things that Unidata is doing, as shown by some of the things that you've seen this week in the workshop or even before, please consider serving. Very important and really a lot of fun as well. Now, secondly, we've seen some great student presentations here, and there's a student representative who attends the Users Committee. I'd like to have the folks who have been the student representatives raise their hands. So we've got Kim Hogren, the current member, Stefan Soselski, and the first member, who's not here but gave a very interesting presentation on Rosetta, Sean Arms. So Kim's term is going to be ending in September, so that means there's going to be an opportunity for hopefully one of you to step forward. I'd like to have everyone step forward if they're interested, and submit an application to become the next student rep. Best part is you get to come to Boulder a couple times a year, and that's pretty cool. So there's going to be an announcement on the Unidata website and on the Unidata blog that should be opening up very soon. And typically just talk to your advisor back at your home institution, or perhaps someone that you worked with at your previous institution, And I think it would be, we certainly got a able crop of potential student representatives right here in the room. So that's all I want to say about that. Any questions or comments based on stuff you saw yesterday? Seems that the cloud, I found it kind of interesting that there was probably about the least amount of interaction in terms of cloud-based activities as opposed to the first 2 days. Some of that just may be to the sheer logistics, as I think Stefan very ably demonstrated. There's kind of a lot to do to get some instances up and running. I've been kind of inspired to try getting a test account on Amazon, and it looks like all you really need to do is sign up, and you get about a year to kind of play around. Stefan, I asked him this morning, and it's not like you're going to be able to set up a bunch of Hadoop clusters and play around with stuff like that, but I kind of envision, ideally, seeing some of the hoops that Stefan had to jump through to get stuff up and running for weather analytics. I kind of envision that we might be able to build in some of the tools that we saw on Tuesday, maybe leveraging Docker. I kind of dream of a system where we can just fire up a virtual machine instance, or even just an instance on our bare metal hardware that we might have access to in our home institutions, and load up a Docker instance, start Wharf with maybe the only thing you really need to do is play around with some configuration files, have it run, have it visualized, and maybe even have some compiled versions of the model evaluation tool suite from DTC. Any comments or thoughts from the group? Does anyone think that does anyone have any plans right now of maybe moving some of their operations to the cloud? Especially interested, David? Mm-hmm.
So I was just commenting that we have proposals out that we have money in there to run Wharf in the cloud, and I do use cloud computing to process aircraft data. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to me, it's just the same as having a server down in the basement, as opposed to, it's not hugely. But the one advantage is you can really spin up a huge amount of resources very quickly. Mm-hmm. Instead of waiting, and that's one reason for this proposal is we want to get running really quickly. So instead of having to buy a server, get it installed, set up, that would take several months. I think in the cloud you could spin up Wharf in days to weeks as opposed to months.
Anyone else?
How do you pay for things like that at a university? There's a whole apparatus of, I want to purchase a machine. Blockety, 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 block. A PO goes out and a machine is purchased. How do you pay $1.53 an hour for cloud time at a university? Has anybody done that?
I talked to our contract people, and they said it's just, that was one of the things, like the contract. So one of the things I was wondering about is, like a graduate student, right? And he's running on these Wharf models. Well, do you give him $1,000 or $100 because he can eat up a whole bunch of time very quickly, and then there goes your budget. So I just budgeted a certain amount of money for the cloud computing per year. The disadvantage is then you won't have anything afterwards. You won't have any server when you're done with the project for anything else.
Sort of prepay, like a gift card.
Yeah, so I would. That's what I would do to the Wharf technician.
You can get gift cards on Amazon, I believe. We'll go to Mohan, then we'll have Warren comment from the back, and then we'll get started with Mariella.
So, some of the comments just made have already answered Brian's question, but it's not a gift card, but your credit card actually is on file with these companies. And we have actually done this with the Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University at Prescott. They used the Unidata Equipment Award to actually buy cloud computing time on the Amazon Web Service and essentially have a credit card on file, and they get billed monthly, and so it can be done. It's a very, it's just a transactional cost as opposed to setting up your server and having the rest of it pretty much free to for you.
So I'm on the other side of the picture here. I'm against cloud computing right now. And the reason being is, well, it's clearly in its infancy. We saw yesterday's presentation. The efficiency is not there for some of our HPC applications. And at the same time, if everybody right now jumped on the cloud bandwagon, what would that do for our community resources for projects that don't have enough funding to pay full-time on a cloud server? Would that mean there's less NSF applications for HPC resources? I think it's something where you kind of have to let the companies go ahead and start using cloud computing and get used to it. That way there's already a road or a path made for us to go down when it comes to putting our research applications on there.
Thanks, Warren. So we can continue this conversation during the panel discussion.